Ladies and gents, welcome back to another Engineers Podcast. Today we're joined by CTO and Head of Engineering at Intercom, makers of Finn. They're building the number one AI customer service agent used by the likes of Anthropic, Lovable, Clay, and many more big names. We're going to be talking today about how they've actually gone about building Finn. And what is Finn? Darragh, over to you. Thanks for coming to join us.
Great to be here.
Give us a bit of a background into you, your decade at Intercom, and also set the scene on Finn and why you're building Finn.
Okay, so yeah, like you say, I'm here at Intercom over a decade. I joined when there was just five others, so very, very early days, pre-revenue. Um, None of us really imagined what it would become, or that we'd still be here 10 years later, 10 years and more. Before that, I had a range of jobs. I did that kind of change jobs every 18 months, kind of rapid period of learning in my career, and then I feel Intercom's given me kind of a avenue to actually just go long on something, which has been fun. Um, yeah, and like you say, Finn has been our focus the last couple of years, ever since we saw this kind of turning point in the technology landscape for AI. You know, we'd been building uh, AI customer service um, agents for many years before, but the technology was always limiting, and we were constantly curious about what or when a breakthrough might come. And so when it did come, we were like ready to pounce and, um, unveiled Finn to the world on GPT-4's launch day, which was quite fun.
Love that. What was the inflection point or the breakthrough for you? If you're already in building mode and thinking about where there's an opportunity to introduce Finn, what was that inflection point of now's a really good time? We need to like go full steam ahead on this.
Like it was really just this sense that the technology was now, um, there'd been a meaningful step change on its ability to uh, deal with quite um, open-ended and unstructured kind of uh, data or context. Like our previous generation of product was quite good, but it required a huge amount of like fine, like hand tuning. Creating these like question and answer pairs, and there's a fuzziness to it. But it where it failed was that the setup was just arduous and required real determination. You could get reasonable results, but now when we played with the new LLMs in the early days, um, the magic was that you could get comparable to the best setup previous gen uh, out of the box with very very little effort. So it became really accessible, and that was like the floor. Pretty pretty good performance out of the box, and that it's only gone up and up from there. So our focus with Finn really is giving people, the best, most powerful, most performant, highest quality customer agent, but done in a way that it's really theirs to control. It works out of the box. It's highly configurable. Doesn't require you to, you know, write a bunch of code or do a bunch of, consulting or whatever to get great results. And that's kind of born from our previous gen where we saw that good technology isn't good enough. You need to also make it uh, easy to use and accessible, and also give people control, because no one's business is static. You need to be able to change these things on the fly, on a dime, and in order to do so, it has to be really easy.
Yeah. I'm really keen to dive into Intercom being a leader in the field, a really recognized brand, to now makers of Finn and almost incubating this world class team to go and build an AI native business platform. Talk to us about the thinking there, and then we're going to come into some of the engineering challenges.
Yeah. like the high level thinking is we've been building tools for um, customer service and beyond that. Intercom previously have had like a much broader product surface area focus across like sales and marketing, and I think that stems from our mission, which is really to make internet business personal, and like all of those touch points that you have or a business has with you ought to be more human, higher quality, personalized, timely, all those qualities. We had to focus, and before this LLM revolution, we kind of fortuitously narrowed in on support. But we're building tools for support, and when you look at that market, and you look at what AI can do for it, it's like you flip from building tools for humans to support their teams, to building AI that will do the work alongside them, or do large quantities of the work alongside them. And when you just kind of step back and roughly size the opportunity, it's like orders of magnitude bigger. You're talking about the salaries versus a tiny kind of software license that each human might have, and it felt inevitable too. Like I don't. Um, as soon as there's a technology breakthrough like this that enables such high uh, ROI, or like step forward and kind of quality or experience, you can't really walk it back. Like for sure, there'll be still, high touch kind of humans in the loop in a bunch of places, but it just felt inevitable. So when you kind of join those dots of like, hey, market size, and this is inevitable, someone's going to do it. We need to do it. We've got a head start. Let's kind of really put all our energy behind this, and that's essentially what we did. Like we kind of largely bet the farm on building the Fin business, and building it on top of our Intercom business, and um, the bet that it would grow and surpass the previous business in a short number of years.
Love that. You're really proud of what you've built already, whether it's from a technical standpoint, whether it's the density of the team. I want to touch on the technical part. So just take us under the hood and help us understand how you've gone about building Finn for what you can share.
Yeah, I'll share it from a couple angles. Um, one one angle that I think is interesting, and it's easy to gloss over when you're building kind of AI product, which is to underappreciate the complexity of the job that you're trying to displace. Like on the surface, customer support is like you're in an inbox and you're seeing a question, you're replying. Behind the scenes, it's way more complex. There's all sorts of training and policies, and kind of a process you go, and how do you investigate things, how do you troubleshoot, how do you label and escalate to your teammates, or what do you do if you're stuck. There's just a whole, like it's a really complex job, and I think if you gloss over that, you'll fall into a bunch of traps. So that's kind of like a high level answer. And then the more on the more technical side of things, I think there's beauty in how simple the interface is. It's like chat, or it's voice. It's like just a conversation, right? And that surface area doesn't change dramatically. Sure, you can kind of enhance it in different ways, but it's quite a simple surface area. But it's what lies beneath the surface that gets interesting, the technology there. And in the early days of Fin, even there was this kind of perception in the market that any of these uh, customer support agents or bots were effectively just like a thin wrapper around a prompt to like a frontier LLM, and that was true in many cases, but um, that's no longer the case with any like half decent product. There's a huge amount in the application layer and AI layer, and um, it wasn't necessarily the case that's how it would bear out, but that is how it's borne out for us. And that side of things, which is opaque to the end user or the purchaser is where all the interesting kind of work lies. And to kind of illustrate this, we you know we talk about resolution rates, like the percentage of conversations that the agent can resolve without the need of like escalating to a human. And we kind of track and share quite transparently like where our averages across all our customers are. And the earliest month was 23%. Again, that matched about what the best old technology could achieve, but it was pretty easy to do. And now we're like 67, 60, in the high 60s averages. And the relentlessness at which we've kind of pushed that forward is the thing that I'm most inspired by. And it would be easy to assume that, like, oh, surely most of that breakthrough is like, Anthropic's new model or GPT-5 or whatever you might assume. And the reality is so far different. We're not maybe a couple of percentage points are down to those frontier models, and frontier models are really play a really really valuable role in it. But the rest of it is true. All of the AI layer work within behind beneath the surface. And one of the things I'm particularly proud of is just the kind of culture we have of like relentless experimentation and iteration there. And that's what delivers us like, you know, month on month gains on that metric, which has been really phenomenal. So yeah, like that technical aspect of it, the application, like AI layer in the application, we've we've got this kind of thesis that the winners in this space will really have like a strongly integrated kind of AI layer, and they'll become expert in AI for the application for customer service. And as a consequence of that belief, we've been investing in both the team and then the technology the team can build to optimize the full AI stack there. And uh, kind of examples of this have been, again, we've shared this quite transparently on our research blog, but examples of this have been like, looking at and decomposing all the elements of our Fin pipeline and assuming that, with our expertise and uh, the, the data and experience we have, we can optimize each part and achieve better results for that component than what the kind of best in the market can do. And we've kind of started to really prove that to be the case. And each of these things, even in our first generation versions of these, in our like Fin models, we've um, convincingly beaten some of the best of breed open models that we've relied on. And that's really encouraging. That's like our first V1 of these things. And what that means for our customers is, higher quality, faster, better resolution rates. And yeah, I don't think it's stopping anytime soon.
Love it. You've touched on closing the gap on the resolution rates, not just being the models. And you spoke about the AI layer, the application layer is really where you can win. And you've created this culture of experimentation, iteration. Are you able to take us one layer deeper and help people understand what challenges you are solving at AI layer or application layer for people that haven't worked on AI native products yet, to get a sense of what it is like to work in that environment on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, let me think of some examples. Like I'll give you a more concrete example on the model side, and like this is like really a really narrow niche thing, but everyone's probably heard of like RAG, this retrieval augmented generation, this kind of method of using LLMs where you provide, along with your kind of prompt or as part of your prompt, you provide context or content for which it will give an answer from. Um, and well, it turns out that the actual performance or effectiveness of your RAG pipeline and the steps of that pipeline, the quality and precision of the um, context you inject into your prompt really, really matter. And there's many components to this, but like one of them is what we call a re-ranker. So you're for any again, customer service can be quite fuzzy. For any question, it can be asked in so many different ways, and there might be different content spread across multiple docs that contribute to answering it. And so the job of this like re-ranker in the pipeline is, hey, given these most likely useful sources of content, um, order them in the best possible way to answer this question. And like the getting the right bit of content first will have a big impact on the quality of the answer. And so it's quite like it's a really simple thing conceptually. It's like, hey, here's 10 documents, put them in the right order. But it's a like a hard problem, like a very fuzzy, hard problem to do right. You need a lot of data and experience to do it. But when you do that, and if you can do it fast, um, and low cost, you can have a real impact on the system. So, in that particular example, Cohere has been regarded, I think, as the best re-ranker out there. And then for our application, whenever you have a general purpose thing, it's uh, by definition not optimized for specific cases. But our case of customer service, where there's maybe uh, a particular weighting one way or the other how to do these things, we can convincingly outperform Cohere, which again has gains in the product. The other kind of like that's very simple core component of Fin. The other end of the spectrum is like I think where a lot of the value lies. So like when you look at customer service, not all contacts are equal, right? Like some are, hey, what's your opening hours? Like that's quite easy. And then some are very complicated, like, hey, this terrible thing went wrong, and now all these awful consequences, and I need your help. And you don't know where to start. You've got to gather a lot of context, and then stuff in between. So not all are equal, and it's in order to deliver the most possible value, you have to attack the hardest things, and the hardest things require a lot of um, personalized context, like probably, hitting up a bunch of APIs or MCPs, taking action on behalf of the company, which, usually you don't want to do that willy nilly. You don't want to like refund all the things. You have a policy you have to follow, maybe of like escalation steps. So the kind of frontier of challenge, I think, is in trying to handle these most complex cases. And it's trying to wrangle and guide and um, the AI to reliably follow processes or reliably use the right tool, etc. That's probably the like cutting edge of challenge for us, and it's sort of analogous to in the early days of Fin, where the frontier challenge was like trying to avoid hallucination. There's a sort of that, but a level or two up, like try and yeah, do the right thing as documented in a process.
You've placed an emphasis on team, and I'm hearing about a lot of fuzzy problems, very, very rich in context problems that I'm now imagining the density in the team is really important, i.e., a 10 out of 10 team could really, really outweigh an 8 out of 10 team. And you've placed a massive emphasis on hiring the best and smartest people. Talk to us about that culture. Talk to us about your thoughts around hiring some of the best brains in AI and the difference that they can make from building a great product to a world class product, in your opinion.
Yeah, we certainly put a huge emphasis on this. For Fergal, our chief AI officer in particular, has incredibly high standards and a sense of what he wanted when building this team, and he won't set he doesn't settle. He won't settle for anything below that, despite immense pressure to you know use the capital we have available to grow the team, etc. So a couple of important things like um, the work, the work and culture I described here around like this relentless culture of experimentation and making uh, data driven decisions and um, that alone obviously requires a different type of skill set to maybe your typical engineer. You might find that in you might find a bunch of that skill set in PhD folks, right? So that where they're able to apply real like scientific rigor to their work. You also need people who are knowledgeable and at the forefront of the domain, and they understand and can stay current, right? So now they're probably in the top X% of their, you know, their field, just on the like uh, academic angle. And then on top of that, I think you also need people who have experience in real commercial application of AI. So there's again a difference between uh, you know brilliant research, PhD, a bunch of academic experience, and actually um, building that AI as part of a real product, a real business. So each of those sort of like steps like whittles down the audience there. And then I think, particularly when you think about kind of team structures and whatnot, you want people who are quite senior in their career. Like it's not just hey they have a PhD and they've worked for a couple of years. They've probably like led teams or worked at multiple companies, and again that further whittles it down. And then you're sort of further filtering for you know different aspects, like different skills, but also different culture fit. So layer all that together, and yeah, we've been very very selective, but have managed to grow incredibly strong. Small in compared to an open AI or whatever, but 50 odd strong AI group that holds its own in the industry. Really proud of that. I think it's going to really differentiate us over the medium term. Already has, uh, and that's bolstered by a few hundred more brilliant product building folks. So like a typical team or work stream will be um, you know 1 to 3 ML scientists, along with kind of a typical product team around them. And the best versions of that, I think, are like when these uh, ML scientists are very strong and capable leaders, have all the technical experience, but also have great instincts on the product. So again, very rare skill set, very rare set of experience.
Yeah. So is that how you're planning on continuing to build Finn? Mobilize a team with product engineers, ML scientists, have them deeply embedded in the teams and really understanding the product. They can add the scientific rigor that they've obviously got their education, academia from.
Yeah, I think so. I kind of have a hunch that over time we'll have a higher density of folks with like ML experience, ML scientists. More and more of our product engineers will be working in that environment too, so they'll kind of it'll rub off on them too. But yeah, that's kind of the pattern. A lot of the work is that where it's like embedded in this kind of multidisciplinary team. There's also often a stage of work which is different than what uh, kind of traditional product work looked like, where before you even go to build this product idea, I think it's important to be well grounded in where the technology, the AI technology is. So because if it's not at the uh, beyond a certain threshold that you're required, it's pointless to try to build the product just yet. So or if you don't understand the limitations, you'll shape the product in the wrong way. So there's a kind of new shape of how a lot of the work comes to life, which is front loading some of that ML work, so we understand the kind of technology limitations, and then build a product around those.
Love it. Okay, yeah, you have actually indexed on that quite a lot. Really understand the workflows, the space really, really well, and then build around that. And touching back on customer service as an industry, where are you placing bets over the next 6 to 12 months that you feel the industry will go towards? Because it has been heavily touted for more AI, more agents, less humans. And I don't have the data at all to back that up. You've obviously been an extremely successful business with Anthropics of the world, Clays, Lovables, and more. But where do you think the space will go in 6 to 12 months?
I feel like one kind of trajectory we're on is the like mass adoption kind of journey, right? I think it's still relatively early, and like the companies you named there are very kind of progressive AI first or AI forward type companies. And I personally see a lot of um, companies in the market kind of struggling to get their head around AI and in customer service and in general, right? And a lot of like maybe false starts or projects that struggle to get off the ground. So I don't know. I feel like we're on this journey of hey, there's probably no company in the market who isn't thinking, hey, what does this mean for us? They might not have the answers, but they're thinking it. And increasingly, many and most of them are starting to shop around. I think the attitudes are shifting. There's more, when you have the examples of the Clays and Tropics, Lovables, etc. of the world, and the difference it can mean for their business, it's easier for people like to maybe we can get that too. So my kind of mental model of the market is that like a tiny percentage of the pioneers are really getting the great results, and there's a bunch in the middle and then a bunch kind of at the starting block, and the difference in results isn't really the technology for the most part. It's actually the attitudes and mindset of the companies, and the internal politics or change management or decision making that holds back um, the upside that is there. So I think that that'll start to shift as there's more examples of like these pioneering companies that inspire others, and also frankly as the products like Finn get even better at helping people get to great setups with very little fuss. And so yeah, there's still a fair amount of kind of conservatism or change aversion, and I think that's easing and will continue to ease.
Yeah, refreshing to hear that. And I can imagine if you crack one or two enterprise logos, and we've spoken about the logos of Anthropics, Clays, who are probably poster boys and girls of the AI world at the moment. If you're able to crack some of the enterprise market and there are logos that are using Fin, that will probably start to actually have a chain of effect quite quickly. I imagine anyway.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that social proof always bears out. Um, yeah, and our kind of journey with Intercom has always been uh, interesting. That we'll have these bigger companies and enterprise companies, and this massive long tail of startups, and that 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 that's quite interesting too. We have many thousand of companies much smaller than Anthropic using us, and it's kind of interesting that comment I said about that change aversion. that's much less present in the earlier stage companies. They're like they themselves are probably building, building with AI and more open minded and quicker to make changes. So that's been fun too.
Yeah, I bet. Help us understand where you're going to be placing bets, maybe more internally focused at Finn over the next 6, 12 months. That could range from agent orchestration to observability and tooling on some of your LLMs, whatever it might be. Where are you thinking that you need to invest over the next period of time?
We touched a little bit on it earlier with this kind of AI layer and like deep vertical integration. Um, and that's definitely an angle we're investing heavily. Um, I mentioned we like first generation Fin CX models in a bunch of parts of the system. We'll build and iterate on that. We've also kind of taken a longer time horizon bet on having researchers, like people that aren't, uh, they're not concerning themselves with like making changes to the product in the next 12 to 18 months. They're thinking, where's the frontier beyond that, and how do we inform and leverage that? So that represents continued investment in um, kind of dominating in the AI layer. It's interesting, like we've had some brilliant examples of customers, Whoop, for example, using us in situations beyond customer support. They're using us to help people choose the right band, and they see meaningfully positive business outcomes as a result. So our vision has always been that Finn will go far beyond customer service, and that's just been our focal point. But we'll broaden that too, and not that massively kind of increases the surface area there, but also brings us into really interesting territory where um, we're helping. My argument with customer service would be in general that great service helps grow your business, but in people's mental model, it's often just a cost center. Whereas when you go into these other spaces of like um, uh, the the funnel for growing your business and where AI can help there, it's much easier for people to attribute the like upside and business growth there. So I think there's this huge opportunity on that side of things in sales and success and whatnot. So that's another area of investment. Um, we've also kind of uh, it's kind of more something I'm proud of, but and well, it's a continue rather than a new thing. But running these systems at scale reliably, um, it's quite interesting. Like I don't historically, Intercom has always been this, you know, single cloud vendor of choice, AWS in our case, and because of a number of reasons, like the tight availability of like um, you know GPUs or NVIDIA boxes, and also the like not super robust reliability of the LLMs themselves. It's been hard to run like a very high availability service. In order to do so, we have to actually run across um, I think about six different vendors, and that in order to give us the capacity guarantees and the availability guarantees, and in order to also enable us to kind of load balance based on like latency and cost and these different things. Um, so we sort of take it for granted now, but that's been like a really foundational, um, uh, I think, strength that we've had there. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. It remains hard to get the capacity you need, and you really have to stay on top of it. You really can't put all your eggs in one basket, etc. So yeah, I think probably touch on a couple of things, but they're what's come to mind.
That's a really interesting take. A lot of people I hear are requiring a lot more systems thinking or that mindset, especially. So to hear about your experience of building at scale, and this is how we've built before as a single provider with AWS. Actually, we've needed to kind of take a step back and think about the systems, balancing, etc., etc. So that's refreshing. But also the business building part, I think, is quite interesting. You've obviously got this experience from Intercom and super specialized in that area, but seeing opportunities where you can actually help businesses build. Going back to your point of this is what customer success, customer support is all about. Love it. Help us understand a little bit more about growing the team, building the team. This has been a big emphasis for you as we wrap up. For people listening that will want to follow the Finn journey, what are the types of people that you're going to be looking for to add to your team, and where geographically?
Um, I'll start at the last part. Like our R&D kind of is all headquartered out of Dublin. We've got a big office in London as well, like very close, same time zone and physically close. That's where the majority of our teams are, and that's where the majority of our hiring will be. Uh, we end up relocating a lot of folks to either of those cities. Um, yeah, so that's the to start at the end. In terms of what we're looking for, like on the ML side, I've touched on it a little earlier. We're looking for um, people quite accomplished academically. They've done relevant and meaningful um, research or doctorates in areas adjacent to what we're doing, and then they've also got real commercial application on in products in ideally user facing technology. Again, that whittles it down. There's also an emerging sort of stream of hiring that we're making, which is we've always had a strong profile that we've hired for, like product engineers, people who are um, I think great technologists, but oriented first and foremost around like uh, product and business impact, and they can kind of operate at that level. There's a emerging kind of profile of that type of person, but who has also worked in AI product or AI adjacent to AI teams. Again, everything is kind of going that direction, and um, that that kind of now becomes an advantage if we can hire product engineers who it's not their first time working on an AI product. Again, more general qualities. We tend to hire for like signals of like trajectory and kind of ambition, hunger for learning. Demonstration of like strong ownership, curiosity. All those types of qualities matter a lot in our kind of hiring decisions. Um, and the kind of table stakes are strong technologists. In this last year or two in particular, like the bar is kind of rising with respect to people's ability to leverage AI too in their job. So it's not just about building AI products, how you use the best tools available to do your job well. And the expectations of that are just rising at the kind of point of hire. And we expect people in part of our interview process to be able to be excellent at, maybe encountering like a bit of code or a system that they're unfamiliar with, using a tool to help them understand it, maybe using AI tool to also surgically craft a change, their ability to call bullshit on the tool when it's not doing what it should, etc. Well, these are all kind of relatively new skills, but critically important.
Love it. I love the blend between the hard skills, the soft skills. There's a bit of a wrap up to that. Dublin, London, accomplished academia in some cases, coupled with if you've worked commercially on a AI first product, or if you're in a product engineering role, if you've worked in an AI native or AI adjacent business or product, these are the types of people that should be reaching out to Darragh, should be reaching out to the team about some of the stuff that they're doing at Finn. You, you've been top class, Darragh. Thank you for coming to join us and share a little bit about what you're building at Finn. I've been looking forward to this one for the last couple of months. So a massive thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's fun.
For everyone listening, of course, the likes, shares, subscribership, all that good stuff is massively appreciated. And go and check out the guys below on their careers site. And again, Darragh, we'll be back in 12 months to see what you guys did get up to.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode. Massively appreciate you listening and checking in with us. If you want to find out more about us and what we're doing, please check us out on social media. What we're trying to do at Engineers is build a community to drive knowledge sharing and experiences. On Twitter, we can be found Engineers.io. It's no_. We've also got a website which is engineers.io. These links will all be posted in the description. Any feedback and comments are massively appreciated. We're always looking to improve on where we can. Thanks, guys.